Hello everyone, Christina Werner here. Thanks for joining me today. In this video, I'm going to be showing you 3 new specialty sets of watercolors from Yuli Watercolor. Jeannie was kind enough to send these over to me in advance of their release, so I played with them for a few weeks, and this is the result. So just a heads up that between when I received them and now, these watercolor sets have gone up for sale. Some of them have sold out, but I talked with Jeannie and she's going to put any of the sold out ones on pre-order. So you can have these almost made for you after you order them. Make sure you check out the coupon code down below in the video description so that when you order these, you get a little bit of a discount. So there are 3 sets of watercolors: Arabian, Renaissance, and Vivid 183 through 194. And before I get into painting with them on a project, I like to do these swatch charts. And in some of the smaller sets, you actually get them already pre-printed in the tin. So all I did was add a black half of each square so that I could see what it looks like on white paper and on black paper. I just used a permanent black marker for that. And then when I go in and paint my swatches, I can see what each color looks like. So when you use these specialty watercolors, my best advice for you to get great results is to put a small amount of water on each color and let it sit for a few minutes. When you come back with your brush, you can swirl your brush into the color until it starts to mix up and get really thick. That's when you're going to get the best bang for your buck. The most color is when you let it kind of really mix in and get really thick. Sometimes if there's too much water, you're not going to get enough pigment in your paint and it doesn't look as amazing as it can. So here's the Arabian set. I'm going to let this dry. I'm going to set it aside and let it dry because I don't want that wet paint to fall down onto the actual paint pots itself when I close the tin. You can see that beautiful shimmer in the light. It's just absolutely gorgeous. So now I'm moving on to the Renaissance palette, and these are a little bit more opaque. I love these soft colors. They're really, really beautiful, and they cover the black really, really well. I think because I let the water sit on the paint a little bit longer. And this last set is Vivid 183 through 194. I believe Yuli has some other vivid colors, and these are the newest. So the thing that's interesting about these colors is that they are color shifting, meaning that as you tip your paper, like once it's dry, when you tip your paper back and forth, you can see different colors. You can kind of see it right here when I tip the palette itself, and you can see it right here really well on the paper. And you'll be able to see more examples of this as I go along today. So for my first kind of playing with the colors, I decided to do some envelopes. And these are going to be a little bit different than my usual mail art envelopes. I'm not going to include a mailing address on the front of like the painted portion anyway. I'll show you how I put it together for actual mailing in this video. But for now, I just wanted to do some sort of specialty paintings of people's names. So this first one is Lindsay Adams. I got her name off of my mail art spreadsheet that I get from all of the submissions for my mail art addresses. If you would like to submit your address for mail art, go ahead and put it down in the form that's in my YouTube description. You can just click over, fill out the form, and then I could use your address for mail art. On these, I'm not going to be sharing their addresses on screen or in photos, so no worries there, but sometimes I do. So just be aware if you share your address with me that I might share it online. That's why I have to ask for permission, so just be aware. This is on a navy blue envelope and it painted so beautifully. I love those leaves. And keep the leaves in the back of your mind because this kind of leaf motif is going to reappear later in the video, but in an easier way for those of you who aren't as confident in painting your own leaves. So there's the first envelope. For this second envelope, I'm using the Renaissance palette, and I wanted to do a really simple lettering of Laura's name. This is Laura Jones. And I really love how sparkly and shimmery these paints look on a dark surface. I think the swatches over on the side, while beautiful, don't really show these paints at their full potential. I think they're absolutely beautiful, and I love that you can kind of get them to mix with each other and shift and move into different colors. So for this envelope, I decided to keep her name really, really simple, just doing like a monoline cursive for the lettering. And I'm going to add just a few little details around, on either side of her name. I thought it would be fun to kind of have these almost like splash shapes coming out from either side of her name. And I decided to add those after I had her name because I realized I didn't have enough color on there and I wanted to show more color. So I'm adding these little almost teardrop shapes on either side of her name, and that just fills in the space and kind of nestles into those gaps around the lettering. I love doing stuff like this. I think it's really, really fun. So here's my second kind of just really simple name on an envelope, and I'm going to let this dry and set it aside. For my third envelope, and you've seen this one if you follow me on Instagram, I'm using the Vivid set, and I'm going to do one that's even a little bit more involved than the previous two, mostly because there were so many colors in this set, and I really wanted to use each color quite a bit to show how colorful it is. So I'm going to be painting Rosalie's name, and then after I have each one of the letters kind of in a different color, then I'm coming back in with some flowers. And these are going to be very simple flowers around her name. And I'm going to sort of build it out from the center. I'm going to turn on a little bit of music so you can enjoy it because I didn't want to speed through or cut away too much of this process because of all three envelopes, I think this was my favorite. That turned out even better than I had hoped. I fell in love with it. So I'm actually going to come back here in a minute and do a card to go with this envelope. But for now, I just wanted to show you how the color shifts as I bend back the envelope in the light. Each like letter and flower shape just turns into a different color. It's really, really striking. So here we are. I'm going to show you the other envelopes that I've done when they're completely dry. Here's the first one using the Arabian palette. It looks so pretty. I love how those colors shift. And then I'm going to show you the Renaissance palette envelope. And once again, this one was on a black envelope with those really shimmery light toned colors. So now I want to create a card. So I've got some black watercolor paper here. This is Stonehenge black paper from Legion. And I've cut it down to be slightly smaller than an A2 card. And I'm first going to pencil out the words for my card. I just wanted it to say thank you very much. And then I'm going to start painting over the letters and then filling out flowers coming from the center, just like I did on the envelope. You can really see the colors shift as I bend back the paper here, just like on the envelope. I think it turned out so, so pretty, and I love all of the flowers around the outer edge. It's interesting. Some of the colors have 3 color shifts, depending on what they are. This flower in the bottom corner, it goes from green to gold to red. So, so pretty. So to finish off this card, all I had to do was put some foam tape on the back of the watercolor panel and put it directly on the front of my card. So here is the card set, or the card with envelope set that'll go together. And when I go to put this in the mail, because there's no address on the envelope itself, I'm going to treat this a little bit differently. I have some clear cello sleeves or clear bags that fit an envelope. So what I do is I put the card in the envelope, and then I put the envelope itself into this clear sleeve, and I'm going to seal it up. I'm going to peel off this little backer on the adhesive strip, and I'll fold that down. And then what I do is I put the actual address on a label. I don't have her address on here yet, but I put it on a label. And then I put the postage on the outside of the clear sleeve. And I do this because the postage needs to be able to be canceled by the post office, and they can't do that if it's not on the inside. So if you do that, it'll just be sent right back to you. It won't get to its destination. So, but like this, it's perfect, and it should arrive without any problem. Okay, so here's an idea that I couldn't get out of my head, and so you'll notice my nail polish is different now in the video footage. This was a week or 2 later. I'm taking the Bold Leaves stamp set from Simon Says Stamp, and I'm going to be using that as sort of like a template for painting leaves. So I was testing this theory out. Could I do this? Turns out I can. So here I am telling you what you have to do. So I'm using both black watercolor paper. This is actually Van Gogh black watercolor paper from Royal Talons. I think that's what it is. And then my white paper is Canson XL watercolor paper. So I'm using Distress Oxide ink in the color Hickory Smoke, and I'm going to be stamping my background stamp in this light gray ink. This is a very opaque ink, so it's going to show up on my black watercolor paper. And this is going to give me a guide for where I want to paint my leaves. For the white version, I'm using Antique Linen Distress ink. So this is the original Distress ink, whereas on the black paper, I used an oxide. So the original Distress ink, just Antique Linen, it puts a nice lighter color down. For the black version, I had to make sure the ink was completely dry before painting. So I came in with my heat tool and just sped up the drying process. So at this point, I was just experimenting. And I'm like, is this going to work? Is it going to pull up the ink underneath? Turns out it does great, like no problem. So I started with my Arabian watercolor set. And the way I painted the leaves was I started with one color and then came in with a second color and kind of mixed them in the middle of the leaf. And this gives it a little bit of a color shift. I think it looks really, really pretty and very unique, as if you've painted it without having any of it stamped before. So as long as you paint over each of the areas where there's that gray ink, you should be just fine. And this is a great way to use any bold background stamp and have it look like you've painted it freehand. So after I started painting this, I thought, you know what? I wonder if I could just die cut an area out of this. So I grabbed my Nested Hearts die set from Simon, and I picked out a heart that I thought would fit on the front of a card really well. And I'm just sort of seeing how much of this background I would need to paint in order for me to die cut the heart. Turns out not very much, just a few of those leaves up there at the top. So I painted those leaves, and then I knew I was in business, that I'd painted enough. Put that die over the top just to be sure. Looks great. So after I had that one corner, I decided, you know what? I could paint my other palette, the Renaissance palette, in the other corner. And this time, because I knew what I was doing ahead, before I was just experimenting, but now I know I'm going to die cut a heart. So I just traced with a pencil the outer edge a little bit away from the die so that I would have a little bit of give and some room to work with. And then I started coming in and painting with the colors in the Renaissance palette. And these were really, really fun to blend and mix together directly on the paper. Like I said before, I put in one color and then put in the second color, and then I can just kind of swish my brush back and forth to blend them on the paper itself. So here are both color sets ready to go, ready to die cut. For the white, since I had a couple examples of the Vivid set on black, on the envelope and on the card, I decided for this one I would use the white watercolor paper. And these colors look just as vibrant on the white watercolor paper. I think they look really, really beautiful. And I did the same thing as I did before on the previous two. I started with one color, came in with a second color, and then just sort of mixed them together on the paper. And that gives it a nice blend. So there are 12 colors in the Vivid set, so I had plenty of colors to choose from as far as painting all of these leaves. And I just went around and just painted enough so that I could die cut the heart. Now, I think this background would be beautiful and so impactful if you painted the entire 6x6 background and then used it on a card. Oh, it would be amazing. But just for sake of time, I decided to just paint the areas that I could cut out with my heart die. So I ran each one of these through my die cutting machine using that die, and I'm left with these really fun hearts that are ready to go on the front of cards. I've got one for each set of watercolors, so you can almost consider them like swatches of each watercolor set. And I decided to put them on different colors of card bases as well. So for the Renaissance palette, I thought it went really well with a craft colored cardstock. For Arabian, I used white, and for Vivid, I used black. I'm using these 3 dies, the Small Script Trio, Take Care, and Get Well Soon from Simus' Stamp to create greetings. And then I just stacked the die cuts so they were nice and thick and substantial, and then glued them directly into the center of each heart. And I did a black sentiment for that white background as well. I decided to add a dashed line around the outside of each heart, so I used a Jelly Roll pen for the black card base, and I also used that Jelly Roll pen for the craft. Then for the white card, I just used a black pen. So those are the 3 cards using all 3 sets. And I think they look absolutely beautiful. Just a reminder that these watercolors are available right now over at yuliwatercolors.com. I'll have a link down below. Make sure you use my coupon code to get a little bit of savings. And that also helps me out because it lets them know that this video has helped you find their products. Thanks so much for watching today. I love how these turned out. I'm really excited. I couldn't wait to share them with you all. Thanks for watching. I will see you guys tomorrow for my regular live stream. I'm going to be going live at 11 a.m. Mountain Time. So come back and join me. I'll be playing with some additional stamps and dies from the Stamptember release from Simus' Stamp. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.